Hello, Prinny here, and looking to talk a bit about Clara. In the previous video where I was talking about Pamina, I mentioned how she has deficiencies as a counter attack damager, and then shortly after I made the video, but before I released it, but after I released it, no, before I released it, Clara's skills got announced, and was looking at wondering if, does she make Pamina irrelevant? Like, is she the power crip version of Pamina? And there's a lot of things that make her stick out. For example, the big one is her trait, which this is translated from Chinese using Google Translate. She has a shield that she generates for herself and her allies, and anytime the shield value is reduced, whether she does it somehow or it's she has some skills that reduces it, or she receives attack, it will inflict physical damage of 25% of her own health. I'm not sure if this is just her max health or her current health, but with her shields, they have to chop through that before they would affect your current health. So she's probably going to be at full health anyways while her shield's still up. She can counterattack up to 3 times at 1 star, and going up to 4 times at 5 star. No improvement until then, which means at 5 stars, Pamina and Clara will both have the same amount of counterattacks, but Pamina starts out with 1 counterattack, goes to 3 at 3, and then gets her 4th one finally at 5. So, at lower star level, Clara, I feel like, would be superior in terms of that. But one tricky thing about it is that it's based on her maximum health, and while she does have a high health value, in the the trial for her, which the trials are always a 5-star version, and usually have the best case scenario for them. She was doing I think 2,500 damage, and my Pamina, who was built for defense, her counterattacks was doing around that amount if I had built her to do damage. I feel she could do a lot more, especially once you start stacking up attack buffs and improved damage received to the enemies, damage up, which with piercing, it doesn't really benefit from piercing, any sort of damage increase other than piercing increase and decrease, and doesn't benefit from stats increase in battle because there's not really in battle HP buffs. There are some unique skills that will increase your HP at the start of the battle, skills and traits, but didn't see her having any of that. So, in terms of damage, I think Pamina would outpace her. assuming you do take her to at least 3 to make her comparable. I'm not sure how many people would take Clara to 5 stars for that extra attack. Another 10% increase to health. But one significant bonus to Clara's shield compared to earlier units is similar to Team Meteor. When she gains a shield, she gains both physical and magical, whereas other than Team Meteor, who can only do it for herself, pretty much everyone else can do either physical or magical shield. Another issue is that she doesn't have many ways to reduce the damage she receives. You can see here at 5 stars, she will get damage reduction 3, but only when her shield is broken, which you can't. She does have an attack that breaks her shield 4, so you could, in theory, do that to reduce her damage, but since it requires 5 stars, you really got to ask yourself is, do I want to take her to 5 stars, and do I want to bring a character that will improve her damage reduction? Whereas Pamina, not only does she have a way to give herself damage reduction too, but her onslaught gives her a unique 30%, and she has other passes that really reduce the damage. And since someone like Simona or Fallen or even Darklight Ice Priest can give her shields, she might have better damage reduction while still having adequate shields. Of course, you also got the Shield of Justice, which gives her a physical shield as well. Still, you're missing out on that magic damage reduction and the magic shield. So there may be certain fights where you're really missing out. But also, one of her skills is gives her a 3 range global guard to give block assist. Not block assist. Cover assist to allies within 3 range, which most units who have such a skill only works in 2 range. One of the exceptions is Aisha. Aisha can only use that for one of your allies. So being able to zip around, take hits for people, counterattack enemies within 2 tiles. I believe that's the range of her trait. Could make it easier to trigger a lot compared to Pamina, who usually needs to use her onslaught once every 4 turns to provoke people into attacking her, to function as like a counter tank. Though she does get the benefit of when she is able to provoke people, they're forced to use basic attacks. One of Clara's weakness is, in regards to that, is that if the shield doesn't reduce, she doesn't do a counterattack. And one thing that ignores shields is any penetration damage. And she doesn't have any sort of penetration damage reduction, something that Pamina actually does have. One of her skills, I believe, is a 30% reduction. It might be part of her onslaught. So it's not something that she gets to have every turn, but ideally, if you're doing some sort of counterattack build a bunch of enemies, you would hopefully wipe them out in a turn or two. Wouldn't just sit there all day. Which you might if in certain fights with Clara, since she's limited by damage based on her HP, and enemies tend to really outpace the HP of your units, especially bosses. It might just be chip damage in most cases, though maybe not all. Still, while she may not necessarily be better than Pamina, time will tell if my analysis is right on that. She does, in many ways, power creep pretty much every other damage assist guardian. Damage assist cover, guardian. Of course, being able to take more damage thanks to her shields without taking damage to her HP, because there are some effects that require actual damage to the character's HP in order to trigger. A good example is Agatha's wound. If she will give wound for any time an enemy takes physical damage, but attacking an enemy with physical shield that doesn't pierce the shield, like doesn't do enough damage to overwhelm it, means that won't trigger for her. So, and wound is can be pretty nasty. So if you're fighting a computer Agatha with other guardians, you may need to bring a support unit to give them shields, or just simply overwhelm Agatha if possible. Whereas her, as long as Agatha can't pierce her shield, you won't have to worry about dealing with wounds. And another aspect of power creep that, to be honest, has kind of been neglected by Guardians is the mode switching, sort of. I think it's there's an outlaw bandit with a shield that doesn't really focus on defense. Like, he has a couple of defensive skills, but like one of his main claim to fame is this attack that boosts the physical attack and of the outlaw, while reducing the defensive stats a bit. And Clara kind of power creeps that by this is the wrong one, having a skill that does something similar. She loses her shields, and then adds the shields that she lost to a strong attack, and then switches it to be the first mode, which increases attack power, defense is down, and changes a lot of her skills. Some of the skills are just ways to get her some of the new skills just get her back out of this defensive stance. And I believe there's a synergy where you can give up your shields to go into this mode, and then next turn we'll have an instant to give her shields. But that's still a turn where when you don't have shields, and if you're have her set to still have that buff that lets her guard for allies, having that taking extra damage and blocking for allies and having no shields could really backfire. So it remains to be seen, like, how effective. Like, if you're bringing Clara, it might be a situation where you want to use her to either as a defensive counterattacker or an aggressive guardian attacker with and not really worry about trying to do both. See, like, you can go lead the way is the same as be the first. Sometimes these translate them wrong. So the next turn, since it doesn't have a cooldown, you can remove lead the way and gain 5 security shield. But since the original skill has a cooldown of 3, if you want to try to chain these, be the first, knight take the lead, like damage, you'd want to wait 2 turns and then use the instant to switch, which means that's 2 turns where you're not really suited for being a block assist. But one thing that is interesting about her is that she's really the first legendary that has the Global Guard as part of the Drifter faction. Like, 2 Drifters, Guardians before were Alessi and Rico, and only Alessi had any sort of block assist, and he can only do it once per turn. So, if you, for some reason, she also has a good leader aura for Drifters. It looks like she completely power creeps Miguel's, because I believe his Drifter aura is the attack 15, defense by 30%, but she also improves damage dealt, damage received when she has a shield, which that is another form of giving her some damage reduction. So she does have at least one skill that lets her do that. So you might be running out of slots if you use that. Let's see. So if you use that and then Knights leads the way, that would only give you one more skill. So you could do the protection skill, or you can do this skill instead. That would be good for a offensive build. So it's hard to say that, like, while she may power creep everyone across the board, as far as those 2 main archetypes, it might be a situation where you can't really do both at the same time, or you would even want to if you tried. This is the other skill that you get when you are in aggressive mode. it's also a give herself some shields while in a mode that loses her shield. So it's interesting that even in this, aggressive style, she's not like going to be like this real big damage dealer, except for maybe a single target. She doesn't really, because while her Knights Lead the Way is good, it doesn't. It has a 3-turn cooldown, so you can't really spam it, and she doesn't really have many supporting damage skills to, really take advantage of her being in that damage mode. It's pretty much just the attack you get. I think her normal attack, she has an alternate skill. Her normal attack changes. I'm not sure how to look at that from here. Maybe you gotta go here. So if we go be the first, no, that's not good. I want to cooperate with me. There we go. Changes to Brave combo. I don't know how to look at Brave combo. Yeah, I'll go ahead and pause it for a second. Okay, I found a description of it on Discord. Brave combo being a 2-hit combo, 90% damage as part of 2 attacks with adding 30% physical shield per hit. So if you go into the aggressive mode, and then you use the 2 instants that increase your shield, this would be doing basically, if you can get your shield to 100%, that would be a significant boost to damage, but I believe that would count as penetration damage. I'm not sure if it includes both of her shields, magic and defensive, but that is still a single target damaging skill, and right now the current meta seems to be more about AoE damage, which her counterattack is still AoE, and not much else is. There's her charge skill, which is basically doing equivalent damage of one of her counterattacks. A bit different than Pamina, who has a few, although not quite as powerful as, an AoE nuke like some other units. But so I wouldn't say Pamina's power crept, but at the same time, Pamina's not like a top tier meta, just high tier, being still perhaps the best at one aspect, better than no other character. And of course, this is not all my discussion about Clara. This wasn't even thinking about counterattack stance, which nearly doubles her trait damage and gives her a range 8 counterattack. In case you need to deal with Nongol or something like that. But this video has run on long enough. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to me, and have a great day.